Hi, my name is Jane Devon, and I'd like to talk about Summer Wells. There are so many myths, rumors, lies, and oddities surrounding this case that it's maddening. And I don't normally make videos, especially about crime. It's not my wheelhouse. I'm an author, a survivor of child abuse, and a long-term advocate through writing and volunteer work. I'm also a mom and a nana to this sweet 4-year-old. But the case of Summer Wells has been especially difficult for me for a number of reasons. I'm not a supporter of the Wells. I also don't know if they had anything to do with the abduction of their daughter. No one does. I do, however, believe that the circumstances surrounding Summer matter, and by that I mean her parents' associates, her living conditions, and the state of her development at the time she disappeared. Let's begin with a prevalent myth that abused children don't have happy photographs. That because there are photos of Summer squealing and smiling that she had to have been a, quote, happy child, unquote. In almost every case where a child has been abused and killed, there are happy photos. Gabriel Fernandez, Evelyn Boswell, Rowan Ford, Lisa Steinberg, and so many others can be seen smiling. Photographs only tell us so much. Even then, it's right to question the whole photographic catalog of the Wells family, showing Summer with bruises on her face and arms, with some sort of sticky residue around her mouth, and with her hair shaved down to the scalp. The catalog shows us that bruises around the eyes and mouth were frequent, and the child's head was not shaved once, but at least twice. Now let's talk about poverty, country living, and the American propensity to either romanticize poor families, like a coat of many colors country song, or condemn it as if the poor are responsible for every crime and social ill in America. This isn't the place to pick apart scholarly research and cultural arguments, but briefly, here are some things that have little to nothing to do with poverty: cleanliness, child neglect, child abuse, hoarding, and murder. The Wells property, free from a mortgage and inherited from Don's mother, was not the Appalachian hillbilly redneck paradise that apologists for the family make it out to be. First, most people in Appalachia don't live the way the Wells do. That is a caricature based on a handful of poverty tourism documentaries. And neither Don, who grew up in Utah, or Candace, who was born in Texas but raised in Wisconsin, are Southern or Appalachian. What they are, is people who don't take care of their home, their property, themselves, or their children. That is an undisputable fact. The children didn't have proper bedrooms, much less beds. The inside shows that one or both adults in the house have a hoarding tendency. The outside is a disaster of abandoned vehicles, ground trash, and discarded equipment. This has nothing to do with poverty, but is a lack of conscience, lack of care, and possibly depression, although at least one adult in the family could have stepped up to the plate. In March 2021, the Wells would have received their first and largest of 3 stimulus payments. They qualified for $8,400. Where did that money go? They didn't fix up their home. They didn't buy the children proper beds. They didn't pay off the Subaru they bought in December 2020. So you might ask, why is this anybody's business? Because where money goes is a fundamental question of personal habits and priorities. Don works, presumably full-time. Other than the alleged $600 Subaru payment, what debts did the Wells have? Again, they didn't have a mortgage to pay. Where did the Wells children and their needs fit? It's an important question. What kind of parents were the Wells? I think most people would agree that they were lacking. The video clip of their 2 youngest boys, approximately 8 and 10 years old at the time, on a Ferris wheel with their dad disturbs me. Don cusses freely, but so do his children. One calls someone, probably Grandma, an old bitch. The other yells down to the oldest boy that he's a pussy. There's no reprimand from Don.
Oh, hey, old man. I'm a little scared of me. Just there, pussy. Yeah, just the pussy.
Now let's move on to some of the many rumors and speculations surrounding this case. Some have been outright ridiculous. That Don and Candace had a life insurance policy on Summer. that Candace and H were having an affair, that the red tote in the back of Grandma's truck was actually the Subaru, that Candace's first daughter, who was adopted out at 6 months old, was missing like Candace's sister, and that Candace had something to do with it. The truth is that as a teenager she ran away and was later found safe. Other rumors are that Candace, Grandma, and H conspired to cover up a drowning at the pond, or that the entire family conspired to cover up an accident. This theory would only make sense if 1. It was an accident that one or more adults could go to prison for, like a hot car death, drugs, or a violent act, or perhaps if one of the boys was involved. And 2, if all 3 boys were lying to law enforcement when they said they saw Summer that afternoon. It's unlikely that 3 children could keep a secret for this long. There's 2 rumors concerning CPS. The first has to do with Rose Bly wanting to take Candace's first 2 children, which may have caused hard feelings between the sisters and maybe even led to Rose's disappearance. This is not true. Rose is 6 years younger than Candace. She was a young teenager when Candace had and then lost her first 2 children. The second CPS rumor is that they were scheduled to visit the Wells house on the day Summer disappeared. There has not been any credible witness, anyone close to the family, to verify this, and the family denies it. It would be almost too obvious to make a child disappear on the same day as a CPS visit, and if it were true, I doubt that any parent would leave 3 boys home from morning to afternoon. Another theory buzzing around the internet is that the family conspired to move Summer from the home and now she's with Grandma in Wisconsin, a theory that's asinine given the number of eyes on this case. Some rumors are more intriguing than others. There was a Facebook post from someone claiming to have overheard a conversation between Candace and another woman shortly after Summer's disappearance. Candace allegedly complained that when she woke up early in the morning, Don wasn't there and she didn't know where he'd gone. But much like the insurance story, a Facebook post isn't a credible source and there's no way to know if it's true. What is true is that there are many discrepancies in this case, beginning with the original police report, which listed Summer as 4 years of age and wearing shorts when she disappeared. The police didn't pull that information from the ether, and oddly, H also remembered Summer wearing shorts, but the last picture of her is wearing a sweatsuit, and before that a swimsuit, although her mom said the swimming excursion was unplanned. Incidentally, Summer's birthday is February 4, 2016. She had been 5 years old for 4 months at the time she disappeared. There was also a pillow in the truck, agreed to by both Candace and H, but in the last picture of Summer, the pillow is not seen. Candace and H agree that there was a phone call from Dawn while Candace was at Walgreens, but they don't agree on what was said. Dawn and Candace deny that Dawn said there was a molester hanging around their property, but the day before Summer's disappearance, according to Dawn, Candace had warned him that Dawn's fired employee made her uncomfortable with the way he was eyeing Summer. So it doesn't seem unlikely that that would be brought up in a phone call the next day. 2 images of red Toyota Tacoma trucks have shown up on social media, both seeming to fit the description of a truck supposedly seen near the Wells property on the day of Summer's abduction. One is from an older Google Images search showing the truck at a Beach Creek Road address. The other is more recent, but in a parking lot. The sheriff and TBI have said that the truck they're looking for has not yet been found. Next, none of us really know how verbal Summer was. There is one video showing her actually speaking, and she says one word, hi. There is another TikTok video Candace posted of a lightning storm in which an unseen child asks a question, and this has been attributed to Summer, although it could just as easily be the youngest boy. There's also a video, the longest with speech, where Summer is seen speaking gibberish, which 4- and 5-year-olds occasionally do, but several experts and parents of autistic children believe Summer was probably on the spectrum.
I'd climb every... Why is it doing that?
She wasn't very vocal, she didn't speak a lot.
The question of Summer's speech was avoided by Don in interviews, although he later tells stories that have her speaking in full sentences. Robin from the church didn't answer the question fully either, instead saying Summer was quiet, which doesn't seem congruent with her very active and not at all shy behavior. When asked about Summer's language skills in another interview, Candace said something to the effect of, "She has her ways." She went to the basement and Summer was not there. It's right to question the story and timeline. It seems unlikely that a predator could have hidden on the property without attention from the dogs and escaping the notice of 2 adults who were outside and the 3 children who were inside. It seems highly unlikely that in 2 minutes or even longer, a stranger could steal Summer, silence her, and carry her down the dog trail or the driveway. Someone known to the family who the dogs might not alert to is a possibility, but it would have been extremely high risk. Not out of the realm of possibility, but if Summer was abducted, I doubt it was a complete stranger. Which brings me back to the parents. I did a random search of known acquaintances and friends of both Candace and Dawn and found plenty of people with criminal records. It's not surprising given that both parents have also been in and out of the system, Dawn more so than Candace, and both also have relatives convicted of sex crimes, and Dawn has now publicly been accused by 2 of his sisters of molestation. They say there are other victims that are considering coming forward. One of his sisters was 5 when the abuse allegedly began, and Dawn was 12. It ended when she was 12 and Dawn was 19. Here is what he had to say to Chris McDonough about it.
Is it your stepsister?
Yeah, my stepsister.
And you?
When we were young.
How old were you?
Yeah, that was me.
How old were you?
She initiated all this stuff. I'm gonna tell you that right now. She initiated it. Yes.
Okay. And then you just went along with it?
Well, I was a kid, brother.
And how old?
I was a kid. I didn't know no better.
How old were you?
I was still a kid. I might have been somewhat a little bit older than her.
How much?
I can't remember. I was a kid.
Oh yeah. About how many years difference? Do you remember?
There's a little bit of difference there,
How many?
But she still initiated it and stabbed me in my back.
How many years different?
Man, there ain't no talking to you. I can see that. You're gonna twist everything I said.
I'm asking.
In Dawn's recent phone call with the interview room, Candace even appears to support Dawn against SA allegations. Whatever glue holds these 2 together seems to be strong. Like many, I believe there are credibility issues with the parents and gaps in their stories. But I don't know, and no other layperson knows, if they are guilty of foul play. Poor life decisions and parenting skills don't necessarily mean guilt. But as of today, law enforcement hasn't cleared them as suspects, just as they haven't cleared anybody else. What I do know is that this case is haunting me, and like so many others, this child is ever present in my mind. We are waiting for answers and some sort of resolution. We are impatient, and our greatest fear is that Summer will never be found, and this will end up a cold case. All we can really do is keep Summer's name out there and be the voice for a child whose own voice we have scarcely heard. I'd be interested in knowing if Summer had the kindergarten assessment that's mandatory prior to starting school. In Tennessee, it's called the Kindergarten Entry Inventory, and it measures several aspects of a child's intellectual and social readiness for school. Personally, based on my experience, it seems Summer was, at the very least, developmentally delayed, but my opinion doesn't make it so. It might, however, be relevant to what happened to her. Children on the spectrum are particularly vulnerable. On the day Summer disappeared are 4 oddities that stand out for me. The first is Candace meeting up with H for what was essentially a long run of errands that would be boring for most teenage boys. Prior to this, they reportedly hadn't seen each other for 8 months. Second is that Don drove the Subaru to work when he normally takes his truck. His reasoning that the car cost $600 per month and was just sitting there is unusual, given Candace's frequent trips and the fact that drywalling supplies are very messy. Why use the nicest vehicle you own for that? Third is the dueling stories about the dogs. Don says they weren't there that day. Candace has said they were. Don says the dogs don't bark and are lazy, while several other people, and a video, say they do bark, at least at strangers. 4 has to do with the clothing and dueling stories about the timeline. H says Summer was wearing shorts when he was dropped off. When and where was she changed into the sweatsuit? H says Candace and Grandma were in the store for, quote, about an hour, unquote, although he is admittedly not good with time. Candace states she was in the store for just a few minutes. She also said she's not good with time. It was a very hot day. In a news interview, Candace described the truck as baking hot. Was the truck left running while Summer and Hunter were left alone in the car? Is that when Summer fell asleep? Neither parent seems to be a reliable narrator, but they haven't strayed too far from the script of their story. Candace, Grandma, and Summer came home. Summer, who was asleep, woke up. The boys were called to help bring in groceries. Candace, Grandma, and Summer planted flowers while the boys continued watching TV and/or playing computer games. Summer wanted to go back inside. Mom walked Summer part way back and yelled at the boys to watch her. Candace returned to the house. 2 minutes later, she said, and the boys told her Summer went downstairs. Candace called for her and there was no answer. Don will turn 57 years old this November. While he has a lengthy rap sheet, he has never been charged with rape or molestation. Then again, for every 1,000 rapes, only 310, or 31%, are reported, and out of 1,000 rapists, 975 will walk free. It is not unusual for children to not tell. I was one of those children, and I know many others who never told, especially when the abuser was someone in their family. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, at least in a court of law. In the realm of public opinion, when a child goes missing, every clue is dissected. The accusations matter. The drugs, the alcohol, the living conditions, they all matter. The essay Don has admitted to, as well as the extramarital affair, matter. 39-year-old Candace's past is slightly more subdued than Don's, but also important. History informs the present, and Candace's history is filled with trauma. At 19, she met a very controlling, her words, 42-year-old man and quickly had 2 babies, a boy and a girl. According to the now-grown daughter, also named Candace, her birth mother was addicted to meth, accused of child abuse, and then she gave her children up for adoption. Candace said she wanted them to have a better life and be a better person than she was. Candace Bly's childhood is a question mark, but what trauma preceded a 19-year-old dating a drug-addicted, controlling man 22 years her senior? And giving up 2 children was a trauma that Candace, it seems, never got help for. Instead, she joined a carnival. She moved to Arkansas. She continued to use drugs, which for some survivors of trauma is a way to numb and self-medicate. It's interesting to note that there's also an 18-year age gap between Don and Candace. She was still in her early 20s when they met, and he was in his 40s. Don is also said to be controlling. They have remained steadfastly by each other's side through a separation, alcohol, drug abuse, an affair, at least 1 domestic violence incident, a CPS investigation, and now Summer's disappearance. Somehow, despite all the odds, I hope Summer is found and she is well. If not, I hope she is recovered and the truth will finally prevail. Thanks for listening.